I'm allowed to start with 2 paintbrushes. I believe I'm going to start with the large round and the medium round. I'm going to pick dark colors to put on my light paper because I want them to show up. And I'm going to start by just painting some lines. Please notice 2 things. Notice that I'm not going all the way to the edge of my paper because I don't want to get paint on my table. Also, notice that when I dip my brush into the paint, I'm keeping the paint on the bristles of the brush. The bristles are like the hair of the brush. I keep the paint down here. I do not let the paint get on the metal part of the brush. Watch. When I'm done, I rinse out my brush in the water, and this is how I rinse out my brush. I put my brush in the water, and by the way, my water cup is halfway full of water. It's filled up to the black line. I rinse my brush out. I gently swish it around a little bit. I pull it out to see if it's clean. It looks pretty clean. I'll rinse it just a little bit more. And then to get the extra water off, I just swipe it on the edge. I do not tap it on my cup. If I do that, it's going to splash my neighbor's artwork and they're going to get really mad at me. Also, if I want to have a paper towel, I can just wipe it on the paper towel. I'm going to set this brush aside and grab my small brush and add some smaller lines. I think this time I'll use a bright red to help that blue stand out. You may notice that right here I'm being careful not to touch the blue part because some of my blue paint is still wet. And if I if I paint on top of my blue with my red, it's going to mix, and I don't really want that. So I'm just going to keep painting my lines. Okay, I'm done with my red lines, so I'm going to rinse out my brush. And set it aside. I'm going to pick up that big brush again, and I'm going to make some dots this time. And this time I think I'll use green. So to make my dots, I dip the end of my brush into the paint, keeping the paint on the bristles, and then I just make a dot. So the good news about this paint is it dries super quickly. And as I was painting my green dots, I noticed that my blue paint is mostly dry, so I'm going to add some dots on my blue paint, only where it's dry. I'm going to use my little brush and some yellow paint. Again, I'm keeping the paint on the bristles of my brush. I'm not letting the paint get back here, just keeping it right here on the bristles of my brush. And where I see that the blue paint is dry, I'm just going to make some dots. Now that I'm done with these 2 brushes, I'm going to take these brushes back to where they belong, and I'm going to get 2 different brushes. Actually, I think I just want to get 1 brush. I'm just going to, these should not be here. They should be over in the brushes pile. So I'm going to go to the brushes pile, and I'm going to get my flat brush, the medium flat brush. I'm going to try something here. I've not done it before, so let's see if it works. I'm going to use the tip of my brush to create a design inside of my lines. What color? I think I'll keep using yellow. Let's check it out. Awesome, I love it. Please notice where I did not paint. If the blue was wet, that's okay. It'll just create an interesting pattern. So I'm going to rinse out my brush. And now that I'm finished, I'm going to take my artwork to the place where it needs to dry. Miss Harden will tell you where. When I actually put my sketchbook together, I'm going to fold it, and this is going to be the front and then the back. So if I want to create something here on the front, I can fold it and then open it up, keeping my hand on the front part. So I know this part will be the front, and maybe I'll paint something like a big H for Harden. So I'm going to go get a big flat brush and get to work. Sometimes paint does get on the table. That's okay, no big deal, we can clean it up later. I'm going to let the front of my sketchbook dry, and I'm going to work on the back. Then I'll come back later and add some detail to the front of my sketchbook. Artists, here's a piece of advice for you. When I bring my brushes back to the brush station, I always make sure that I put my brushes up in the cup. I don't mean this cup right here. I mean that when I put my brushes back in the cup, I put my brushes bristles facing up in the cup. Happy art making!